All right, let's talk about something that is absolutely fundamental to building high-performance Apex applications. It's a really simple idea, but once you get it, it can completely change how you build things and how fast your app feels. We're going to dive into what I call the one-trip rule. This quote right here, this is basically the golden rule of database development. You should think of this as your North Star. No matter what you're building, a process, a button, a line of code, the goal is always the same. Make one single efficient trip to the database, get everything you need, and get out. I'm telling you, this is the key to a fast, scalable application. So, if the goal is to only make one trip, what exactly are we trying to avoid? Well, we're trying to avoid what's commonly known as a double hit. Let's get a really clear definition of what this actually means in the world of Apex.
Now, a double hit isn't just about a user clicking a button twice. It's way broader than that. It's any process under the hood that's inefficient. It could be a duplicate page submission, sure, but it could also be a redundant data lookup in your code or any action that forces the database to do the same work more than once. It's just pure waste.
Here's a super simple way to think about it, and I love this analogy. Imagine you're baking a cake. You write down one single shopping list and you go to the store once to get all your ingredients, right? You would never drive to the store for flour, come all the way home, then drive back for eggs. That's just crazy. It's inefficient. Your application should be just as smart.
All right, let's get practical. Let's start with the most common and, frankly, the most visible place this whole problem occurs, right there on the user interface, and specifically with how we handle user submissions. Oh man, we have all seen this happen. A user clicks submit, the page takes half a second to respond, so what do? They click it again, and maybe again for good measure. And just like that, you've got 3 identical orders in your system. So how do we, as developers, stop this totally predictable user behavior from causing chaos? Well, the good news is Apex gives us 2 fantastic built-in ways to solve this. The simple fix is totally declarative. You just flip a switch on the button to Show Processing. Easy. But for more immediate feedback and a bit more control, the power user fix is to use a tiny bit of JavaScript in a dynamic action to disable that button instantly. And here's the code for that more advanced fix. See? It's just one line. You pop this into a dynamic action that fires right before the page submission, and you can physically disable that button the very millisecond it's clicked. It is a clean, robust way to stop those double clicks dead in their tracks. Great, so we've secured the front end. Awesome. But now let's move a layer deeper to the server side, because believe me, double hits can happen really easily in our application logic too. This right here is such a classic mistake. Let's say a developer wants to run some PL SQL code and then send the user to another page. So they might create a button that has a redirect action, but also have a separate page process that runs on submit. This setup actually creates 2 distinct requests to the server, a classic double hit. So the crucial point here is to unify all of this into a single, clean process. The correct Apex pattern is simple. The button's action is just submit page. That's it. This triggers one single trip to the server. Your page process runs all the logic it needs to, and then as the very last step, a branch seamlessly redirects the user. One click, one trip, one result. Beautiful. Okay, but what happens when your process isn't quick? What if it's a really heavy-duty job, something that takes several minutes to run? This actually introduces a whole new kind of double hit risk. Here's a weird thing that happens. When a browser sends a request and doesn't get a response back fast enough, we're talking maybe a few minutes, it sometimes assumes something went wrong. And what does it do? It automatically sends the exact same request again. So now you've got a process that was already chugging along being kicked off a second time by the browser itself. Yikes! The really elegant solution here is to separate the user's click from the long-running job. The button click should do one tiny, super fast thing. Add a task to a background queue using a tool like Apex Automation or maybe DBMS_scheduler. The page then returns to the user immediately, and the database handles the heavy lifting on its own time. This completely eliminates the risk of a browser retry. Now we're getting to the real heart of it. This one-trip philosophy, it doesn't just apply to page submissions. You need to apply this thinking everywhere, all the way down to the individual SQL statements you write. So let's say you have a complex function in your SQL query. If you call that function multiple times with the same inputs, the database might actually rerun it every single time. But if you mark the function as deterministic, you're telling Oracle, hey, this function always gives the same output for the same input, so feel free to just cache the result. It's a huge performance win. Or you can use a common table expression with a with clause. That lets you calculate a value one time at the start of your query and then just reference that result as many times as you need. And you can see this hit once philosophy is baked right into the Apex framework itself. I mean, just look at this screenshot of an authorization scheme setting. Apex is explicitly asking you how often you want to evaluate this security check. The most efficient option here, once per session, checks the user's permission one single time and then caches that result, which prevents redundant security checks on every single page view. It's brilliant.
So let's do a quick recap. What's in your one-trip toolkit? Well, on the front end, you stop double clicks. In your page logic, you combine your processes and your navigation. For those really heavy jobs, you push them into the background. And everywhere else, from your SQL all the way to your Apex components, you start thinking about caching.
You see, the big takeaway here is that optimizing for a single trip isn't just one technique. It's a mindset. It's a way of thinking about your code. So the final question I'll leave you with is this. Now that you know what to look for, where in your own applications are you making an unnecessary second trip to the database? Go find it and go fix it. Thanks for watching.